answers at the moment. I'm hoping that at the end of the session, before lunch, we will have some time then for questions and answers, so let's save those until later. Now for our second presentation, and this one is directly related to safety and safety at sea. Please welcome James Vughan from the Royal National Lifeboat Institution, the RNLI from England. James is International Director. James is a key member of the senior management team involved in defining strategy to save lives and prevent drowning at sea within the RNLI. The RNLI is a unique organisation based on a long and honourable history over 190 years, during which time its volunteer lifeboats have saved over 400,000 lives, James?
Correct, Tim.
400,000 lives, an amazing record of an organisation. The relevance of the presentation that James is about to make today, with the tragic events earlier this year in Korea, are very clear and will become clear as you see his presentation. The area of operations of the RNLI in the sea that surrounds the UK are amongst the busiest in the world. As an island nation in the UK, we live and survive on commercial shipping. It's an essential part of our lives. The traffic lanes for commercial shipping are amongst the busiest anywhere in the world. We also have 2 million recreational boating people, 2 million people who own boats for recreational leisure use. Accidents happen. The RNLI provides both commercial and recreational seagoers a safety net that makes boating and the sea a safer place. We're much in your debt in the UK, James, and I'm sure your presentation will be appropriate and interesting to this audience. Please welcome James Vughan.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting me. It's a great honour to be here in Korea at KIBS in 2014. As the slide says, as I was introduced, I'm James Vughan from the RNLI. We provide over 85% of the waterborne search and rescue capability for the UK. Now, our purpose as an organisation is very simple, and that is to prevent people from drowning. And that is something we've done since 1824, so nearly 200 years, and as Tim said, saved over 400,000 lives. Now, my aim today... technology. Thank you. My aim today is to provide you with an overview of how the UK as a nation provides our maritime search and rescue capability. Now, I'm going to focus on the RNLI, which, as the slide indicates, provides a joined-up rescue service from the beach to the open sea. And as I said, being 190 years old, there is a long story to tell. But I'll try and provide you with the key ingredients of our organisations in the next 25 minutes. I'm going to start, however, with a fast-moving compilation film showing the range of what we do. It shows many different types of lifeboats and their casualties, all of which is real footage captured via onboard cameras. And then I will pick up on the core themes around casualty potential, our concept of operations, how we operate, our capability, and of course our cost in my presentation. Let's see if we can make technology work. Nope. Sorry, we'll just get there in a second. So this is a short film which has been put together from footage which all the crews have helmet cameras, or many of the crews have helmet cameras, and we have cameras on all the boats now, which allow us to take images which we can use for training purposes and also for publicity.
Coast Guard, on the Coast Guard, Sunderland, like on Channel 16, over.
Right, so I hope that 3-minute film gave you a fairly good indication of the range of casualties that we have to operate with each year. But let me look a little bit more detail at those casualties and what the potential is. What is the problem that we are trying to address within our waters? Well, the orange dots on this slide show the density of our rescues in just 1 year. And that averages out at 22 people every day of the year. And interestingly, the blue dots is where those people live. So you can see how many people live inland but use the sea from a recreational point of view. Yet even with all of those rescues, each year there are over 400 drowning deaths in the UK, of which about 150 are around the coast. And that is essentially the problem that we are trying to address. In more detail, why do people need our help? Well, the causes include... get right way around. The causes include 120 launches to commercial passenger vessels, 54 to tankers or cargo vessels, this is in the last year, 800 launches to fishing vessels, and over 1,200 launches to power vessels and power boats, leisure power boats. Over 20% of our launches are in fact for machinery failure. Now, how does UK maritime SAR work, search and rescue work? Well, if you look at this slide, at the very top, overall, the UK government has the responsibility for safety of life at sea. And that is delivered through a multi-agency approach. At the highest level, the UK government manages the UK's MRCC, the Maritime Rescue Coordination Centre, that's their rescue tower, to coordinate activities. The RNLI provides the majority of lifeboat and lifeguard cover, with a commercial contractor and military providing aviation support. Now, this is a multi-agency approach, but it's tried and tested and performs very well. Now, I'd also point out that in the UK, we belong to a global network of maritime search and rescue organisations called the IMRF. That is the International Maritime Rescue Federation, and their website is shown here. They are IMO recognised, that's the International Maritime Organisation, part of the UN, and help emerging organisations as well as providing some support for developed ones. They host conferences such as a recent, very successful mass rescue conference in Sweden, which saw search and rescue organisations, freight companies, cruise companies, ferry organisations and onshore groups coming together from around the world to debate how to prepare for mass rescue events. Back now to the RNLI, and our history goes back 190 years when lifeboats looked very different. In fact, the last rowing or pulling lifeboat only went out of service just after the Second World War. Within the UK, the RNLI is crewed by volunteers and funded by the public through donations. But it is centrally led as an organisation. That said, critically, each lifeboat station, while taking instruction and support from a headquarters, is also very much seen as a community asset. Now, we have a history of innovation. The RNLI have invented one of the first life jackets, shown here on the far left, to keep our crews safe. It was made of cork, it was extremely uncomfortable and bulky, but it saved lives. Over the years, this has been adapted to stay at the forefront of safety, and today's model on the far right is a very different and sophisticated piece of clothing. Furthermore, all our crews will now have personal locator beacons, PLBs, as well. Now, traditionally our crews were fishermen, when fishing in the UK was a significant industry. However, today, with a massive decline in the UK fishing, our crews are ordinary people in ordinary jobs who we train to be lifesavers. Now, this picture shows the same people, first of all, in the clothing of their day jobs on the top, ranging from police officers to office workers and electricians and plumbers, and then in their crew clothing underneath. Ordinary people trained to do a specialist job. And it's important to note that women also make up a large and important part of our crews and anecdotally make much better drivers. Now, let's turn to our capability. I'm going to show you some footage in a minute showing the capability of our crews and our equipment. Now, this is the BBC website, and earlier this year, a boy was washed from the beach during a terrible storm. And there was huge pressure by the community to try and locate the casualty, even though the conditions were appalling. Now, this 30-second footage shows part of a 6-hour rescue mission to try and locate that boy using a combination of thermal imaging of a helicopter and the lifeboat just meters from the shore. Now, in a minute, watch how the lifeboat holds station. She is just 17 metres long and has a displacement of 42 tonnes. Yet the crew, for 6 hours, were confident in their training and their equipment to keep trying to find the boy. Those are extremely big waves, and he is literally metres from a breakwater. And that sort of technology takes an awful lot of design and practice to get right. Now, where do we operate? Well, this map shows our lifeboat stations around the UK and the Republic of Ireland. The RNLI covers 19,000 miles of coastline and operates to the following standards. We have 235 lifeboat stations marked by the orange dots, on call 24/7, 365 days of the year. And the yellow dots, over 200 lifeguard units for our summer months. Our lifeboat stations will operate up to a range of 100 miles from the shore in all weathers. We aim to reach 90% of casualties within 10 nautical miles of the coasts within 30 minutes, again in all weathers. And on the beach, we aim to reach within 300 metres of the shore within 3.5 minutes. In detail, this means a very scientific approach to the positioning of our lifeboats, balancing the casualty potential and the type of lifeboat with launching facilities and other rescue assets in the area. Now, my apologies, this is a busy slide, but let me try and talk you through it. It shows an example of our planning and reviewing process. And the location is to the east of the UK, just to the east of London. And it shows a number of lifeboat stations, including those along the River Thames. Now, the black arrows here identify 3 lifeboat stations, and you will see there are several more using the same coloured dots. 15, in fact, along this stretch of coastline. The coloured circles then illustrate how far each lifeboat can travel in 30 minutes. And then the blue arrow is how far we can get to the 10-mile point, which is one of our KPIs. Now, from a planning perspective, the aim is to ensure there are few gaps and equally good resilience from each side of every lifeboat station. If you then look at the dots, those are the casualties within a 5-year time frame, and that's for each individual lifeboat station. And this sort of information allows us to ensure that we have the right assets in the right areas. Each year as well, we also compare our activity, and as you can see overall, it is extremely seasonal. This is a comparison of the monthly lifeboat launches, with by far the peak during the summer months. Now, onto our fleet. Our lifeboat fleet consists of 2 basic approaches, all-weather and inshore. Our all-weather fleet is capable, as the name implies, of going out in all conditions. Each lifeboat is self-righting in the event of a capsize, and I will expand on all the different classes in a second. The inshore fleet are made up of lifeboats that are restricted to less than Force 8 or Force 6 weather conditions, depending on their size. But they are more agile for harbours, estuaries and closer to shore, and importantly, they require less crew. So this combination of all-weather and inshore capability provides good resilience for most rescue situations. Now, each lifeboat requires a home or a base to ensure that it can be maintained and kept ready constantly for service. Every station is subtly different to cope with the specific demands of that location, and sees many variations in launching equipment to cope with varying tidal ranges and geographical features. And I'm trying to show a couple of examples here. The top 2 images show stations that face the Atlantic. For both areas, a harbour facility is simply not an option, and so the lifeboat station is mounted on stilts with a slipway launch to the lifeboat. We have 15 such stations, and each is a significant investment, but should last over 50 years. Now, the bottom 2 show harbour locations, which is our favourite option from a cost and ease of access point of view, but even then we have to take into account some significant tidal ranges with the equipment. Lifeboats are not the limit of our capabilities, because we recognise that the risk of coastline drowning extends onto the beach, where there is a high risk of casualty potential. Therefore, we have RNLI lifeguards patrolling beaches that have been defined by a rigorous risk assessment. And last year, our lifeguards went to the aid of over 30,000 people and saved 100 lives. We don't own those beaches, we just provide the lifeguarding service, working closely with local lifeguarding clubs at the weekends. And in terms of equipment, each beach is slightly different again, but we have a range of options, And the tower you see here in this slide is removed by us in the winter, stored and maintained before being replaced for the following year. It has been purpose-built to withstand both weather and vandal attacks, and yet is still a very effective watchtower that blends well into the beach environment. Beyond the beach, we also have an operational capability around flood, specifically swift water rescue. The RNLI has been providing a flood rescue capability since 2000 and has 250 specially trained volunteers and personnel. We work closely with other flood teams in the UK, principally the fire service, to provide an integrated solution. Now, our key skill here is swift water, and the main picture shows some severe flooding within the UK a couple of years ago. For an idea of depth, look at the lower windows in the houses to the right of the picture, and you will start to see how much water was there. And to add to that, the water going down that central high street at one point was running at over 20 knots. So it was quite a significant challenge. Now, while the rescue capability of the RNLI is very important in our objective to save lives, what is increasingly important to the RNLI is prevention. In the UK, even after saving an average of 500 lives each year and rescuing more than 8,000 people from our coasts, as I said before, over 150 people die around the coast from drowning. Our aim as an organisation is to cut that number by half over the next 10 years. Now, this slide, and again it is rather dark, I apologise for that, shows a board within our headquarters where we monitor each and every coastal drowning death in the UK. This is just for 2014, and the left side is the general casualties, i.e. those people that have died just through accidents on the water. And the right-hand side illustrates suicides. It's a very sobering picture, but it really helps us establish trends, identify the causes, so that we can provide solutions. Once we can establish patterns and trends, we can then collaborate with various leisure and industry sectors to provide interventions that can reduce the loss of life. It requires great data on casualties and excellent collaboration across sectors, but we believe it will deliver results and many more lives saved. We call this a wheel of data, and it enables us to plot the potential risks, the organisations involved, and the potential solutions in one place. In the UK, like in many places in the world, collaboration and innovation is the key to saving more lives. So that describes the sharp end of our operations, but what supports it? Well, a specialist support structure covering engineering, boat design and production, supply chain, training, finance, IT, in all about 1,000 staff and a headquarters backing up around 8,000 coastal team members. Now on this slide, everything under the white line is a part of our headquarters. And on the left of the picture, slightly out of view, is a building site where we are currently building a new factory to build and maintain our all-weather fleet. This factory will be building 6 all-weather lifeboats each year and refitting 7 more and doing major repairs. The picture was taken 6 weeks ago, and the factory is going to open in November, so we have a little way to go. But returning to the theme of support, let me highlight 2 important areas for us, training and technical. Now, our technical ability is second to none. We design, build and refit our lifeboats in purpose-built factories in the UK. All our lifeboats are now built out of carbon composite material, so it's an extremely strong, light and tough material. We also have a significant technical design capacity to continuously improve our construction and maintenance, as well as developing new generations of lifeboat. Looking at training, I have already highlighted that our crews used to be fishermen, and therefore their nautical skills were assumed to be sufficient. But today, with a fleet of complex, high-powered vessels, our duty of care as an organisation, and the important fact that less than 10% of our crews come from a nautical background, a comprehensive training strategy is critical. We deliver that through a competency programme, much of which is delivered locally and online, but also via a 60-bedroom training facility, shown here, complete with simulator and wave tank at our head office site. It is very much the envy of many lifeboat organisations. Looking a little bit more at technology, to provide the range of capabilities to deal with our casualty potential and geographical differences, we have 3 types of all-weather lifeboat. Our biggest lifeboat is shown here, bottom right and marked A. She is 40 tons in weight, and she was the one you saw operating in that video. Next, bottom left and marked B, is a 30-ton lifeboat, and finally on the top of the slide, marked C, is our 20-ton lifeboat. 3 different types of lifeboat, but each of them has a range of launching and mooring capabilities. Let me take an example of the Shannon class, the newest of our fleet and 20 tons, shown here in the top picture, operating effectively in the surf line. She has twin water jets giving her a speed of 25 knots, a range of 250 miles, and a fully integrated systems management system, meaning the crew do not have to leave their seats when going out to a rescue. She also has the capability of being launched by a purpose-built trailer system that can launch and recover with a minimal of human interventions, and shown here, bottom left and right. This system can work along long, flat, sandy beaches, often several miles in length, or across a 1 in 5 terrain. She can also be slipway launched as well as being moored alongside in a harbour. So one standard lifeboat, many different launching combinations. Now, I said I would come to cost, and running an emergency service is not cheap. Our annual operating costs are £144 million sterling, and our annual capex last year was 48 million. These translate, I hope if I've got it right, to about 250 billion won and 82 billion won respectively. But it should be noted that because the majority of our crews are volunteers, those costs do not take into account, or their costs are not taken into account in the running of those rescue services on the ground. But it is perhaps a small price to pay for the reassurance that the UK has an effective and an efficient maritime search and rescue service. The RNLI also has an active overseas programme. We, as an organisation, are focused on drowning prevention, and we are working hard to build partnerships around the world to tackle the massive issue of drowning. Many policy makers around the world are unaware of the impact of drowning, both coastal and inland. For instance, did you know that in many parts of Asia, drowning is the single biggest cause of childhood mortality over the age of 1? In Bangladesh alone, 46 children drown every day, most as a result of day-to-day living rather than the effect of any cataclysmic flooding events. And yet prevention and education offer proven cures at a very low cost. So while seeking a coalition of organisations to tackle this, the RNLI has also developed 4 key programmes to build capacity within low and middle income countries. These cover search and rescue, flood, lifeguarding and swim survival. And they are being developed by the RNLI in Bangladesh, Tanzania, Sierra Leone, Senegal and the Philippines. This work illustrates the importance we see in tackling the problem of drowning around the world. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. You might ask me, what is the magic ingredients that pulls all of these elements together? What makes the RNLI special and work? And I would say it is a mixture of 3 things. First of all, the huge motivation around saving lives. Everybody in the UK is focused on that objective. Secondly, the RNLI is owned by the community, which again provides a very powerful ingredient towards a successful organisation. And thirdly, an element of national pride. The RNLI is a national institution, even if you live far inland, because as a traditionally maritime nation, most of the UK population are still very proud of our sea heritage and our rescue service. The combination of those 3 ingredients makes for a powerful and progressive organisation. Now, Tim, I have one final clip, but are we running out of time?
You're fine.
We're fine. Okay, I'm going to show you a very short clip of a minute, which is a real rescue in the north of the UK in Scotland. It involved a fisherman, and his life was saved. So there is sound to this, but it just talks it's the coverage from the cruise. Worth pointing out there that the conditions are very calm, and in the UK, most of our rescues and saving of life is done in very calm conditions. That said, we had over 60 launches last year in over Gale Force 9 conditions, so our ability has to cope with both extremes. There we go. Thank you. Tim, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, James. That was the first of our two specific life-saving and safety presentations. We're now going to take a short coffee break. When you come back from coffee, we will have our second presentation on safety from the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries. 10 minutes coffee break, please, if we could be back in 10 minutes' time. Thank you.